Great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second Drake Music webinar. Myself, B, and my colleague Cassie are going to be doing some introductions before we kick off. So welcome. We're so delighted to see you here, and in our weird Zoom setting, I've seen a few of you that I know come in the chat from different hubs that we work with, and I wish we could be acknowledging each other in person now and saying a really big hello. It's great to see you all here, and it's brilliant to see so many names and faces that I've personally not met as well. It's brilliant to have you all here. For anyone just joining us, this is the beginning of webinar 2, and I'll let Cassie carry on with the introduction.
Hello everyone, I'm Cassie Gerling. I'm also a musical inclusion practitioner and manager. I am a mixed race woman with curly hair in my 30s, and as B says, this is the second of 6 webinars in our Step Up webinar series called Showing the Doing, a toolkit for inclusive music making. So welcome to those of you who were at the last webinar, and welcome to the newcomers. Today's webinar is going to be led by 2 of our star DM associates, Ben Sellers and Georgina Aasgaard. Georgina is a cellist and music and health practitioner who is passionate about music, health and well-being. Alongside her work at Drake, she is the musician in residence at Alder Hey Children's Hospital and leads the musician in residence programme established by Merseycare NHS Foundation Trust and the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic Orchestra. She also performs regularly as a freelance musician with many leading orchestras. And we also have Ben Sellers here. Ben Sellers has been with us since 2012, and he has delivered with us on lots of projects with partners including BBC Symphony Orchestra, Museum of London, and numerous music education hubs. He has a great textbook, which I would recommend checking out, called Teaching Music with GarageBand for iPad, and it's used by teachers all around the world. So they'll be leading the session today. I'll hand back to B.
Thanks very much, Cassie. I realised I was remiss in audio describing myself. I apologise about that. I am a white woman in my 30s with long brown hair, and I have some shining lights behind me in a blue background. Just a few housekeeping points before we jump in. Myself and Cassie are available in the chat if you have any tech issues. Also, our colleague Joy is there as well. There are instructions posted in the chat for joining the closed captions if you'd like to use those. I think we'll repost those as well now for anyone that missed them initially at the beginning. But if you would like captions, then you should be able to follow the instructions there. Any problems, let us know. Thank you to all of you who have agreed for the session being recorded, as it will be. If you don't agree, or if you do agree, tell us whether you agree or disagree, and put it in the chat so we know. And we will be happy for you to have your cameras off or on, whatever you feel most comfortable in. And if you wouldn't mind, and if you would like, if it's important to you, then please put where you're from with your name and which organisation you work for as well. And if you'd like your pronouns to be known, then please add them also to your name.
And there will also be breakout rooms during this session. If you are engaging with the BSL, then please stay within the main room during these breakout sessions, as there will be a breakout session within the main space with the BSL. And it's totally up to you. You don't have to engage in the breakout sessions. If you would prefer not to, then also stay in the main space and turn your cameras off.
Thanks, Cassie. Please engage with the session in whatever way is accessible to you. And final point from me is that if you're a social media user, then please feel free to tweet us. Our handle for this session is We All Make Music. I'll pop this in the chat in a minute. And we'll hashtag musical inclusion for the event. So if you have anything you'd like to say there, then please do come and make a comment. So it only leaves me to say have an amazing hour with our wonderful team here. It's going to be very exciting, and thank you again for being here. Over to you, Ben and Georgina.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I'm Georgina. I'm a white woman in my 40s. I'm wearing a red jumper and I've got long hair put in a bun. It's really, thank you so much, Bea and Cassie, for welcoming me into this hour to talk about one big question to us all. How can we make our activities accessible when we're engaged in making? I suppose accessibility can mean different things to different. For me, I think we just want to make sure that people are not excluded from using something on the basis of experiencing a disability. And as musicians and practitioners, I think our role is to really empower people through music making so that participants can have a sense of independence and will in no way be frustrated by something that's poorly designed or poorly set up. So the outcomes of our session today is to present inclusive music making activities within mixed groups using a variety of examples. As Bea mentioned, I work in a great variety of settings, and Ben does as well work in loads of different settings. So hopefully we will give you an illustration of some of those settings. Another outcome for this session is to equip participants with practical tools to support equal access in making. So Ben has prepared a super list of hot tips for this, which I really look forward to listen to as well. And then last but not least, one of the very important outcome of this session as well is to always reflect and share knowledge on what we do. This is obviously based on our own experiences, which hopefully will make you reflect on your own experiences so that we can share knowledge. I'm going to hand over to Ben, who is going to lead a little warm-up for us before we get on to our presentation. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks, Georgina. Hi, I am Ben, half Chinese, half Yorkshire, short dark hair, false teeth, big headphones. One really important thing, as we all know as practitioners, is to connect with the people in the room. And to do that, we need to know how they're feeling, which is really hard on Zoom. So this is a word I use just a little bit. I'd like everyone to take a breath and just connect in with how they're feeling at this moment. So maybe excited, maybe bored, tired, frustrated, joyful. So just a minute there or a second. And with that emotion in mind, could you think of a song that represents that emotion really well? Great. So in a second, I'm going to ask you to choose an instrument and air play that song, because as we all know, you can't play a wrong note on an air guitar. And just to give you a demonstration, Georgina, if you want to turn your mic off, I don't know what song you've thought of, but if you could, on any instrument, give us your...
I will turn my mic off.
All right, go for it, Georgina. So lovely. All right, everyone got the idea? So if you feel like it, turn your camera on, and you feel free to swoosh through the patterns and see what everyone else is doing. And we're going to do our collective emotion song. 3, 2, 1, go. Two, one, and hold it there. Good, lovely, lovely. So a variety of emotions I'm seeing, but pretty energetic given 12 minutes past 4 on a Thursday. Great. So now we've got a good idea how everyone's doing. Our next little bit of interaction. Obviously, I'm seeing and imagining loads of knowledge and experience already in the room, but to get an idea of why people are here, especially the practitioners amongst you, could you write in the chat which of your activities would you like to make more accessible, and/or are there any specific cohorts or individuals you would like to better engage? So maybe you're having a class that you just haven't quite got a handle on yet, and that maybe you'd like all the other people to have a consider, or a session or a particular individual. So if people could put in the chat any activity or specific cohort or individual they're particularly interested in allowing them to access their sessions. So we'll just spend a few seconds thinking about that. So we've got primary school class orchestra sessions. So ensembles, improvisation and composition, so everyone feels comfortable taking part and expressing themselves. Whole class brass lessons, shy girls. Piano teaching, individuals, an individual with dyslexia. I've created an organisation to make live music and events more accessible. I'm here to learn anything, but particularly activities I can do within the events I organise. PMLD ownership from Amy. Hi, Amy. Whole class instrumental, flute. Ensembles, rock bands. Cerebral palsy in the classroom. Cello lessons with a SEN choir. Brilliant. Whole class mixed abilities, composition, improvisation. To be able to make keyboard playing more accessible to people of all abilities. Online session for elective home education pupils. Whole class instrumental and composition. School band rehearsals, mixed abilities. Children with English, limited English. Learners on the autistic spectrum, neurodiverse learners. Mixed groups of young people with PMLD and autism, activities for mixed abilities from Sonia. Oh, I'm in a screen share and we can see your screen. All right, thanks, B. Is that better? Yeah. Inclusion groups with pupils who are struggling with engagement with school. Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. SEN needs post-16. So a huge variety, mainstream, special ed schools, right the way from PMLD through to post-16. Hopefully there'll be something useful for everyone. And if there isn't, then in the small group work later on, you can add something that is. Thank you very much, everyone. So I'm going to pass back over to Georgina. We will be using everything that you've put in the chat later on. It won't be wasted. For the main big idea, Georgina.
Thank you so much, Ben. So before, it's amazing to see that we all come from so many different places in our music making, and wonderful to see the variety of practice we have between ourselves. So as within my practice, I'm also exposed to a lot of variety. I've tried to think for this session about ways of summarizing and try to identify what I feel is really important for an effective practice when you're doing music with mixed groups of people. So I just, for me, the first big thing is to understand the context of your setting. So that's, again, you need, every setting will require different things to consider, like setting up the space, considerations of access for all, scaffolding activities to support all levels of participation. So again, making sure that that we can make interactions grow into something bigger, start from small things that can grow into much bigger things. Always making sure that we create a supportive environment for young people so that they can lead the creative content of their sessions, and always listen to everybody's voice. and also on a more practical level, to always make sure we fit the instruments to each participant, that according to their abilities, whether it's technical or traditional instruments, that can improve accessibility. We'll move on to the next slide, please. So behind all this need to understand the context of your setting, I like to ask myself, why do we do this, and what does it mean? So I think for me, the main thing about in music interactions is to create meaningful connections. I think a meaningful connection is a two-way street, a space where we can share common interests, feelings, emotions, and where there's a real sense of trust between each other. And for that, it's crucial to try to identify people's needs. That's where the practice should start. What is it that people need to express? With this, we need to create an awareness that we are all equal in the music making from the very first moment we come together. The simplest contributions can be so transformative in a way, like somebody's breath can suddenly become the beginning of music making in the session, not only for the person who's being expressive, but also for everyone else in the room. We need to reflect in our planning, practice, and reflection that every voice matters. So when you collaborate with other practitioners, it is absolutely crucial that we reflect the fact that the most important thing is to make sure whatever happens, that every voice will be heard. We can move on, please, Ben. Thank you. So, oh yes, I've just said that before, but I was just, oops. Yeah. The simplest contributions, as I said, can be really transformed. When a group of people together, I think it's so important to promote co-production, collaboration, and co-creation in every this sense of like playing in a band. When you play in a band, everybody has a equally important role, even if it's a quiet role. And mainly, last but not least, to give a real meaning to everybody's potential to nurture a sense of belonging and ownership in the music making. I will pass now back on to Ben to talk to us about his practical tips. So these were more like, the big ideas behind the practice. And now Ben is going to take us through lots of really useful tips to kind of cover these main ideas that I've just spoken about. Thank you. Over to you, Ben.
Thanks, Georgina. Lovely. So my bread and butter work is working in special ed schools, working with maybe 4 to 6 classes a day. So lots of pupils, often like a full variety of needs in the same day. And so being very adaptive and grabbing time to reflect, as is the case for lots of people. I've also worked in mainstream schools as a wider ops teacher and kind of one-to-one clarinet teacher. I've also been doing a project with Tower Hamlets with Drake, where we've been trying to improve whole class instrumental tuition so it's more accessible for all pupils. So this is kind of where I'm coming from, and hopefully there'll be something in there for everybody. This is my top 40 tips of all these years at Drake, and here we go. So before the project, visit the pupils. Find out what the classroom vibe is. Ask the pupils what kind of music they are into, and read sometimes there's pupil profiles on the wall you can have a little look at. Listen to their musical recommendations. I've got really into synthwave, listening to the recommendations of pupils. It's not because we're trying to be their best friends, but it's to show that we value their opinion and to inform the repertoire choice when we start our project. Find out if anyone has sight or hearing impairments, because this will affect our planning and the equipment that we use. Avoid asking about other medical conditions or previous behaviours, because it doesn't tell you what you need to know. As many people say nowadays, when you've met one disabled person, you've met one disabled person, and a list of medical conditions isn't going to help you with your planning. On the day, in between arriving at the school and starting the session, find 5 minutes to sit somewhere quietly, close your eyes, go to your happy place and breathe. I did it before this session. What an incredible gift it is to be paid to make music with young people. Number 6, stay hydrated. Number 7, go into the room you'll be working in. Ask yourself, how is the acoustic? How are the recorders going to sound in here? How is the snare drum going to sound in here? Are there any instruments in the room already that you can use? Are there any things in the room that you don't want pupils to engage with, like potentially a snare drum? And if so, can you put them in a cupboard or hide them? Because, you know, if a pupil really wants to play a snare drum and they've seen it, I kind of want to let them play it, you know, but that might not help my kind of wider session. Sorry. There's one thing about this. So this is an interactive part. I don't know if you've played that game, Yes and. So what would be great in the chat is if there's something you say, yeah, the snare drum and. So please do put anything in the chat, and hopefully this will be a dialogue as we go. So we've talked about equipment. Where's the projector and the whiteboard, and can you link to it? Especially if you've got pupils with sight impairments, often they like really big text. And is the room to dance? Also, before the session starts, check in with your other senses. How is the temperature? So a hot room can really trouble a session because people become very lethargic. If there's a hot room and no windows, I will make sure there's water in the room so people themselves can stay hydrated. How's the lighting? Lighting can have a huge effect on the music that's being played. Often some pupils really don't like bright light, but also low light can be a bit intimidating for some pupils, but you might want to kind of create a certain atmosphere with lighting. And how are the colours? So some groups don't like bright colours, and you'll notice often if you go into special ed schools that the colours are quite muted on the walls. So that could also be your instruments if you've got bright coloured instruments. And finally, make sure there's space for wheelchair users to move around just as much as anyone else, cable free. So in the session, I try to greet everybody at the door, to say hello, to look people in the eye if they want to be looked in the eye, and also just to kind of get a sense of how the pupils are doing at that moment. And especially working in pupil referral units and social, emotional, mental health schools, if someone's having a bad day, you'll know about it as soon as they walk into the room, and then you'll be able to kind of incorporate that into your kind of moment-to-moment planning. Maybe you want to sit them a little, maybe you want to go and sit next to them, for example. Begin the session with live music. I try and do this as much as possible. I've put a little diagram on the right-hand side. This is the focus energy matrix, and we can all fit ourselves onto here somewhere. So the warm-up that we did at the beginning, in a way, was kind of figuring out where everyone's sitting on this axis. And what we want to do, ideally, is bring everyone to a high energy, high focus place. But we can't do that just be like, wah! People will be like, whoa, you know, I'm not in that space. We need to take them there. And sometimes that will take the whole session. Sometimes we won't manage it, but sometimes we can do it in a couple of minutes just with our instruments, especially if we feel comfortable improvising. So I play clarinet. So from holding the door, getting a sense of the room, maybe knowing the pupils, I'll start with often just one long, low note. And this takes the focus onto me. So if any pupils are feeling nervous, they don't feel so self-conscious because there's a focus here. And then it's a dialogue. I'm seeing how they react. Maybe I'm starting slow and bringing the energy up, maybe bringing the energy of the pitch up. Maybe if I know the group, maybe I've got a backing track that I'm playing along to. And I'm also saying to the pupils, anything is allowed. So if I'm working with pupils who are very shy, I'm going to be silly at the beginning. If I'm working with pupils who are very overexcited, have just come in from break, maybe I'm slowing it right down. So using our instrument as a tool to bring people into the space. Pace. Be intentional about pace. So I myself often rush, especially when I'm a bit nervous, but I've learned to really slow down for a more enjoyable experience for all. We're keeping it fresh, but we're making sure everyone comes with us. And now I've just said that, I'm slowing down. And I'm seeing, if you ever watch comedians, I once saw Ken Dodd live. It was a masterclass in pace. He started off so fast, and then by the end of the night, dropping the jokes one by one, and he had us all fully with him. So pace is a really important thing. I'm sure you all know this one. Get everyone in the room involved, especially the TAs. So often if you have, if you're working with a class that you don't know very well, the adults in the room who know the pupils the best will be the teaching assistants or the learning support assistants. And the young people tend to trust the TAs and have a really strong relationship with them. So if the TAs are having fun and making music, it's much, much easier to get the participants to do the same. And then you're building this sense of group identity, and you're moving the power structure in the room to make it kind of, we're all musicians exploring together. We're working towards knowledge rather than me being the knowledge bearer who's filling your bucket full of knowledge. And if something isn't working, change it sooner rather than later. Connecting. So as Georgina said, connecting with young people is the kind of thing number one. I'm sure you know it anyway. And so this has got the most of my top 40 tips. As a general rule, the more profound a pupil's need, the larger percentage of communication that will be done directly through music. So we're doing a lot of talking today, but sometimes we would have a session where there would be nearly no talking and nearly all music. Pupils and people, they won't remember what you say, they'll remember how they felt at the end of the session. And it's feeling rather than knowledge that we're going for, certainly in the first instance. When you speak, remember that your tone of voice carries as much information as the words, especially for pupils with limited cognition. The words communicate what's going on in our head, but the tone communicates what's going on in our hearts, or the tone communicates what's going on in our heart. If I'm saying something really positive, that's what's going to come across. Remember that ability is not fixed, so it can vary dramatically from week to week, from hour to hour, based on many, many factors, most of which you don't know about. So it's really important to drop assumptions and memories from past sessions and be with the person who has shown up. Great. Steve Varden is saying outdoor sessions in the chat. Great, thanks, Steve. If anyone else wants to put any yes ands in the chat, please do.
I think, Ben, that may have been in regards to, you know, when you were saying hold the door open and welcome the young people into the room. In an outdoor session, how would you do that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I maybe stand at the threshold. Yeah, thanks, Cass. So a really good piece of advice I got from a Senko in Tower Hamlets, talking about working with deaf mute pupils, is to not ask direct questions, or I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? Request that they speak, but it's very habitual for us. So what we need to do is find ways to show warmth that are non-verbal. Find ways to show warmth that are non-verbal. For very shy pupils, there's a statement about that right at the beginning of the session. What I find really well, kind of similar, is not necessarily to speak or give instructions directly to them, but to speak to the person sat next to them, but really take your time, and it will often be the case that the pupil is much more comfortable learning from their peer than from you. So speaking to the person next to them and let them absorb and copy. Learn a few Makaton signs. So Makaton is a simplified form of sign language and a preferred communication method for many pupils with additional needs. I'm going to give you one now. It's there. It's for sing. So sing, you take 2 fingers, start at the corner of your mouth, and you give us a little spin out. Lovely. Oh, I'm seeing it. People do it on the screen. Thank you very much. Yeah. Great. And there's loads and loads of resources online. If you do one a week for a 10-week project, you know, very quickly you build it up and you find yourself speaking and signing at the same time. And you're just kind of saying to the pupils, I've put the time in to learn the way you want to communicate, because a lot of the time they're expected to learn the way that we want to communicate. And just some further study. We don't have a lot of time to go into it now, but there's 2 really brilliant communication methods that I find useful. One is called non-violent communication, also called mindful communication. It was developed by a guy called Marshall Rosenberg in the 1960s, and it's based on the idea that everybody is trying to meet their fundamental needs, and any kind of behavior or action is an attempt to meet a need. And if you can identify the need beneath the behavior, then you're much more able to connect with them. So there's loads of web videos on YouTube. The other one is called intensive interaction, and that's for people with more profound needs, and that's a kind of one-to-one way of kind of zoning in with those young people. So yeah, 2 really good methods there. So let's move on to the actual music. Use interesting scales. So my favorite scale is the Pelog Scale, which is a Balinese gamelan scale. It's the tonic, the flat second, the flat third, the fifth, and the flat sixth. And it gives a kind of eerie, ambiguous kind of feeling, which is really nice to improvise over. And you can use the tonic minor and the major of the sixth as a kind of vamp, 2-chord vamp. So if you wanted to use all the white notes, if you wanted to use a xylophone or a marimba, it would be E, F, G, B, and C would be those white notes, and you would play it over E minor and C major. Use cyclical frameworks. So the idea that we start a piece of music in bar 1 and end in bar 64 is, to my understanding, quite a Western concept. In lots of other cultures, in Indian Tala, in Zimbabwean Mbira, in the blues, the 12-bar blues, in Irish traditional music, in gamelan, it's this idea of cycles going around and around, and it allows us to plant musical seeds that then grow, motifs that then grow into something much bigger. And it takes the pressure off pupils, because if they miss one cycle, just wait till the next one. So use this idea of cycles. Let other people conduct with their hands, with their heads, with their eyes, with a switch, with picture cards. If your instrument vibrates, let people feel it. Drake music is all about technology. Some of the most powerful sessions I've seen have involved cellos, which is Georgina's instrument, and people finding different ways to interact with them, and often, you know, putting them, for example, on a resonance board, and then people putting their hands on the resonance board, one person playing. You know, it's so simple, but it grabs us at a very deep level. So if your instrument vibrates, let people feel it. If your instrument is electronic, you could think about buying a vibrating speaker. Pass the microphone around. I've been told to remind you to be COVID safe on this one, but pass the microphone around, and if you can, add some effects. Let everybody say hi. And we've got a great picture here. So there are some people, as we saw, interested in whole class ensemble tuition, and this webinar is all about how to work with mixed ability groups. Everything I've said so far obviously works for mainstream as well as pupils with additional needs, but hopefully some of these will be particularly useful for that. So the first thing before the project is to speak to the Senko, give them a call. All primary schools have a special educational needs coordinator, and they are a total font of knowledge. They'll know all their pupils with a EHCP, Educational Health and Social Care Plan, Education Health Care Plan, really well, but they'll also have a kind of general overview, and they'll be able to tell you lots about the pupils. The question to ask them is, what does progress look like for, and then the given pupil, or what does success look like for a given pupil? And that might not be musical. And then you can kind of build that into your lesson planning, and you'll be really thanked by the staff, because obviously everyone loves music, but they also really want the people to progress in terms of communication, social interaction, stuff like that. So if you can start hitting those outcomes explicitly, that's a really good win. And you know, classroom teachers who may otherwise not have time, or so they think have time, to engage in music are much more likely to carry on your projects if they feel like there's these outcomes happening as well. Work to short-term outcomes. So often whole class stuff is termly with a performance at the end. We could have 4-week chunks, 3-week chunks, 5-week chunks with a clear kind of success at the end. And this makes it much more manageable for young people, and increases their feeling of success. Part of the Thames project, we talked a lot about what is the point of whole class ensemble tuition. So is it so that they can play a given repertoire? Is it so that they carry on the instrument? Perhaps is it so that they fall in love with music making? And if it's the latter, then we can be much more open with what whole class ensemble tuition actually looks like in the room, especially if we've got large cohorts of pupils who aren't engaging in kind of traditional ways. So the kind of conclusion we came to was to try and put small group work into all of the sessions for the particular people I was working with. So it helps with social skills, it helps with peer learning, but it also crucially allows teaching assistants who may have assumptions about what the young person can or cannot do with a violin. Because they're working with their peers, the TAs tend to step back and allow the young person to figure out what they can do or can't do without any assumptions. So that's a really good one to encourage small group work. Chunk instructions, so break things down into bite-sized pieces. I'm sure all the Wicket practitioners do that anyway. I would say do it even more. Consider seating, so pupils who need extra support, move them close to you or to a colleague. If there are 2 of you teaching, consider having one of you working with a small group with the pupils who need extra support, ideally in a separate space. This at Thames has proved really, really useful. If you're teaching alone and you're feeling like some pupils aren't engaging, you've tried lots of these other things, tell your manager and tell them that in order for everybody to access the sessions, you need extra support. This is me as a freelancer who's got no, responsibility saying this, but, I think it's important to recognize that some people just need extra people in the room. And, it could be someone at the beginning of their career who could come and benefit or volunteer and learn a lot from the experience. And finally, ask yourself, is performance appropriate? So for some pupils, they love the playing, but the performance is really, really tough. And also for you as a teacher, if you know at the end of the 10 weeks that you have to play a song, towards the end, it can get very focused on kind of getting it right rather than keeping the joy and the experimentation that has perhaps been a feature of the beginning of the sessions. So a recording is a really good alternative. After the session, write down everybody's name and ideally any brief notes about how they could progress next time. If there's any names that you find difficult to pronounce, learn them well. Probably lots of people struggle to pronounce them. So if you spend the time to learn it well, you will be rewarded. And harvest perspective. So when leading from the front, it's really easy to miss things. How certain pupils did, how each task landed. Invite and value feedback from colleagues and take it for what it is, which is feedback. It's not a criticism, and it's a chance for some free CPD. Create a culture of collaborative growth. And finally, please, project managers, make sure there's enough time in the project for spacious planning and reflection time. Drake are brilliant at this. It gives us time as practitioners to get better at what we do. Embrace failure. It's okay when things don't work out. There's a guy, I'm sure lots of you know him, called Blind Boy, and he says, lots of musicians, because it's we come into music because we love music, and often we come into teaching because we love young people and we love the contribution of teaching. So when it goes wrong, as it inevitably will sometimes, we take it really to heart. I do. But Blind Boy says it's like making breakfast. If you burn your eggs, you don't think, oh, I'm such a terrible person. Why, what's the point? I'm going to give up making breakfast. You just kind of think, oh, well, it didn't taste very nice. I'll try again tomorrow. And if we can be like that with our practice, this is also funny too. That's really great. Number 39, enjoy yourself. Sometimes you'll be the first real musician that the young person's met. And if you are enjoying your music making and having a good time, it's much more likely they will want to be a musician too. I didn't have a 40th because I knew something would come to me in the beginning of the session. And I saw Jonathan Westrop and I saw Stephen Plummer. Jonathan Westrop, sorry, Jonathan, I know I always say this, but has taught me so much about learning, about delivery of music. And Stephen Plummer was a mentee of mine on a recent Drake project in Coventry. And so my number 40 is like, yeah, share what you do humbly and go the extra mile for your colleagues, because then our sector will be even stronger than it already is. And they're my top 40 tips. Please do put stuff in the chat. And what have we got so far? Oh, okay. Right. Good. I'm running over time, so I'll pass back to Georgina.
Oh, thank you so much, Ben. That was so informative, and it really gives so much food for thought what you've exposed us to. I'm aware that there's been a lot of talking, so what I suggest now is to show you a little video. And I think in this video, you may find a lot of, actually, as you're watching it, it'd be really interesting for you to see if all the tips that Ben has just given us could somehow are kind of, if you can identify some of those tips in what you're going to see now. So I'm really delighted to present you the Young Dada Ensemble. I've been engaged with with the Young Dada Ensemble since 2015, working together as a co-leader for the group with John Herring, who some of you may know. So Dada Fest is based in Liverpool. It's an organization that inspires and develop and celebrate talent in disability and the deaf arts. Dada Fest produce opportunities for disabled and deaf people to perform and access the arts. And we started the Young Dada Ensemble 5 years ago. We meet every Monday evening. We met before COVID, and we have a group of young people aged 11 to 20, all based in Merseyside. I'm just going to put this film on. This is a 9-minute film, but we'll cut it to 6 minutes. And as I mentioned, just maybe write down in the chat any thoughts that you have on all these kind of big ideas that I presented at the beginning. And maybe if you can identify some of the tips Ben has just presented. Enjoy.
Can you hear it, Georgina?
Not yet. Yeah. If you can put the volume up a little bit. Yeah.
Ben, we've lost the sound.
Yeah. Sorry about this. We'll just try to adjust the sound.
I'm doing beatboxing and singing, and like the beatboxing I learned off the internet. All the other people like on the guitars, piano, drums, and saxophone, and the bass.
Shall I just try this? What makes us all different?
Yeah, I think, if we're thinking about what makes it different, but how we work together well, how those differences fit together and to make a really good...
I could just write teamwork. We could think about teamwork. Matthew, do you have an idea for...
A song called You and I.
You and I.
Oh, that's nice.
And Mike Chill's song, Anything is Changing.
So I'll put you and I as well. Yeah, and it kind of links with teamwork. That's what you and I.
What's the best thing is like we sit around this circle. That's like chatting and chatting about what kind of music can we do and stuff.
like that we can come up with our own ideas as well. That's what interests me in a band. I like a band where people can think for themselves and come up with their own ideas as well as include others' ideas.
I am so glad to come here to be in a band. I've just never had a band before. I've never had a band. It's been absolutely spot on and brilliant.
Should we have one last bit of vocals, Matthew?
I do it every Monday. I come here. I'm playing keyboard because I've got the performance on the 30th of November.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is a song called You and I by the band Musical Fusion. It was come together by everyone's ideas and making everyone's own genres. Everyone's genres put into this song. We hope you all enjoy the song, and
Rebecca's leaving holidays. If I leave. If you respect, you get respect back. Be kind, communicate, that's a real fact. And treat everyone and treat ideas. Listen to each other, we'll be friends for years. You and I, we can fly high in the sky. You and I.
I've learned how to play in time, and I've learned how to listen, and I've learned how to communicate better.
Nice.
I really like it because like I said, I've always wanted to do it, and it's like a dream come true.
From my point of view, the best part of the project is getting loads of different young people involved with all different disabilities and conditions to be able to just create and join and create music, which I think is a lovely thing, and I think it helps a lot of people who wouldn't really have this chance to be able to do so.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you for the comment you've just put in the chat. Steve Warden, who's with us. And by the way, I forgot to say your beats at the beginning of the session were amazing. I'm so glad you're putting this comment to kind of trigger my few comments about what you've just watched. Steve Warden has been shadowing our sessions. And as you noticed, they've really all improved so much. So I absolutely love that video because I think it summarizes quite a lot of things we've been talking about so far, mainly about the fact that this is completely person-centered and participant-led. As you can see, the young people have such a big sense of ownership. Everything you've seen on that screen has come from them. It's their own ideas. They put it together, and they have so much joy in sharing those ideas that they've got together. And young Kyle, who's got the long hair, who speaks, really emphasizes on the fact that they love sharing, and they love sharing different ideas, different genres, and they learn so much from that. So we meet every Monday. Obviously, they all come from school, and they're being hosted by Resonate Music. There's a huge amount of logistics to put in place, because they all have PAs. We have to coordinate taxis. We have to make sure the space is accessible. Then we have to set up the space, making sure we leave a lot of space, a lot of room. The young people enjoy moving around the room, exploring different instruments. We have very good resources, and that really helps towards music making as a group. Obviously, the group element, as you've just seen, is really staggering. Everything is put together at the same time. We've got, by their common effort, we have made this great composition. So you see Matthew suggested that idea of you and I, and that led to that amazing song that they wrote, Respect Each Other, Share Your Ideas, with really, really strong messages, and really this need of singing out about how important it is to collaborate, co-produce and co-create when it comes to music making. And obviously it goes back to this idea that when you're in a band, in a way there's no quiet voice. We are all equal, and even though some roles may be quieter, we are all on the same level. We're a band. There's no room for weak click. I like to compare it a little bit like team sports in a way. There's no, we all in it on the same level. I'll just talk to you a little bit about the structure we have in our sessions to come to these achievements. We always have listening time at the beginning of each sessions. This listening time could be either the young people presenting a song they love to the group, so we'll just put it on our big screen, or it could be one of us, music practitioners, performing something. So obviously I play the cello, John plays the guitar. We had two other lead that, just by playing and sharing our own passion with our instrument can be really inspiring. So we always have this listening time, which we feel is really important. And sometimes we have guest musicians. We have had some fantastic performances from Live Music Now. And the young people are so open to listen to different genres of music. If we can move to the next slide, Ben, please. Obviously, through these sessions, we really develop the young people's musicianship. So they may want to explore different instruments. They also may want to explore composers. I play a lot of classical music, and I've been very surprised on how sometimes young people say, "Oh, it's actually really cool to hear a piece of music that's 300 years old." And do you think the Beatles, or do you think the Justin Bieber will still be alive in 300 years? And we have, it opens up to loads of really meaningful conversations. And young people have really learned to chord sequences, musical structures, making songs, having choruses, verses, all these different musical structures that goes toward the composition are skills that have really been developing year after year within the young people. Obviously, for us practitioners, and I'm sure you can all relate to that, the biggest challenge is to manage a positive group dynamic. So, I must admit that sometimes it's complete cacophony where, everybody wants to play at the same time, everybody's so excited. And, how do we make sure we always hear the quietest voice when everything, sometimes feels a little bit hectic? So it's very important to really consider different characters, and also to bear in mind that this group, this Monday evenings, are such an important social and support network for the young people, where we show respect to each other. We have a bit of a code of conduct, and we really emphasize on the fact we need to show respect to each other, and that creates amazing friendships, and we have some wonderful shared experiences. One thing we've introduced as well with our young people is master classes. So week by week, week after week, everybody, the young people volunteer to lead a masterclass. So, for example, we've got our young big boxer, he's not on that film, Kyle. He will start a session. We'll say, okay, next week, Kyle, you're going to do a masterclass. So he will teach the rest of the group his few tricks of, how to start beatboxing. He will speak to us about all the beatboxers that inspire him. Next week, we'll have Josh with his guitar. Josh's smile you've seen on the video just gets me every time. So Josh is absolutely, crazy about his guitar, loves his guitar, and he gave us a masterclass as well about all the different effects he can produce, and that really it's a way of the young people to really express their passion for music, which is so important. And obviously at the end of the session we have this ritual of reflecting together, and in the past couple of years we've it's just very simple, but it's a nice little tip. We have 3 main words: I liked, I learned, and I felt. And each young person we give little post-its. So I liked is a yellow post-it, for example. I learned is a pink post-it, and I felt would be a blue post-it. And we make little collage of all these different post-its where they write a few words, and it's a great way of reflecting on the session there and then within a few minutes. And for us practitioners, it's those 3 words. I use them a lot for my own practice. After each session I do, whichever setting I work with, what did I like, what did I learn from today, and how did that make me feel? And I think those 3 questions can take us anywhere and in any setting we work with. So on a more kind of logistic level also, we put we have a great care in planning our meetings, and we also spend a lot of time in looking at young people's feedback. And we've also been in the last year collaborating with Hope University from Liverpool to kind of put all this feedback into a more reflective framework. And this was done by Drake as well, one of the projects I did by Greg, which had a collaboration with the University of Birmingham. And I think that really shows, how important it is to really reflect in our practice, to pass it on. As Ben said in his last tip, the last tip is to share, and I think it's so important that we keep sharing all these experiences we have. I think we're running out of time, but I just want to say I work also a lot in different special needs schools and hospitals, and I think all these things that I've just been talking about will apply to all these different settings. So thank you. I think we will now go into our breakout rooms.
Yeah. Amazing, Georgina. What a vid.
Yeah.
So we're going to go into breakout rooms for 8 minutes. We're going to go into breakout rooms of 3, if that's okay with everyone. And the question we're asking you, having seen everything, having seen what we've done, and also having your practice, is how do you already, or will you make your activities accessible for specific groups or individuals or activities? And all those examples at the beginning, you can refer to them, so they'll be at the top of the chat. So if you guys have got perfect practice already and don't have anything you want to develop, you can look at some of the other things. And then we're going to come back. If one person in the 3 could write down 3 key points from the chat, from your conversation, then we'll put those in the chat at the end. If you don't want to stay in the chat, if you don't want to go to your small groups, that's fine. Stay here, but I encourage you to, obviously. All right, I'm not going to ask if that's clear because I can't see everyone. So I'm just going to say, Joy, take the people to the breakout rooms. Lovely. So is there anyone here who is trying to get to a breakout room but isn't managing? Okay. Because they would like captioning or sign language. Okay, so everyone's here just to chill. Sarah, are you here just to chill, or would you like to chat? You're here just to chill. Cool, that's fine. Hi, Georgina.
Sorry. Hi. Well
All
done.
right.
Your tips were amazing. I was a bit nervous at the beginning. I waffled, but anyway, that's...
It's fine. I think it's great. That's the second, what you just did was amazing, spot on. And yeah, a bit of waffle at the beginning never hurts.
Yeah. Thanks.
Um,
We're running out of time a little
yeah.
bit. What do you think we should do?
Yeah, so I think we bring people back, say at 30 minutes past, and I think we need to. No, I think we need people to put stuff in.
Yeah.
I think Joy and Cass, is it right if we finish 5 minutes late? You reckon?
We need to finish bang on time because the captioner leaves at that point.
Yeah, so we can't run over. So bring people back in 1 minute, and because of surveys, closing, all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what time do you want us to finish?
13 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Shall I finish off, Georgina, or would you like to?
Yeah, no, feel free to finish off. That's great. We can just say...
Could we just? Well, I tell you what. We'll ask people to put stuff in the chat, and then we'll say we'll send it around. We'll send it to people.
I think that sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, that's what we said to kind of for each group to write 3 highlights of the discussion, of their discussion in the chat as we wrap up.
Great.
We can just say, yeah, we're coming to the end of the session. If you can put 3 highlights of your discussion in the chat box, and we'll circulate that after the, yeah.
Cool.
Eleanor's just messaged me to say that she can stay a couple more minutes if needed.
That is amazing. Yeah,
so
that's amazing.
Yeah, let's keep it a couple minutes. So let's finish at like 17 past the latest.
I don't know whether I'm giving my system a bit of an overload, but I've been kicked out of the room twice, or something's just happening on my end. But hopefully, I think everything went quite well. But I do believe towards the end, something happened. So before you assigned everyone to a breakout room, I wasn't able to sign that bit.
Okay, that's
So
really strange.
It happened in my other, I think it might be on my end. It might just be maybe internet connection, but I am connected to, I've wired it. So it's not even, I'm not on the Wi-Fi or anything. So I'm not even sure what's going wrong.
Yeah, that's really strange. Goodness, I don't know what to suggest.
Just fingers crossed. We said that we
just cross our fingers.
About 5 minutes.
Shall we close the breakout rooms?
Yeah.
Yeah. Forgot there's a 60-second countdown that you can't cut short.
Hi, Amy.
I think that's everybody who's still with us. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, no. Welcome back, everyone. Hope your discussions were fruitful. I'm seeing faces and I'm seeing smiles, so that's great. Bye, Amy. Thank you. So we've just got a couple of minutes left. What we'd love to do as we wrap up is if you could hopefully you made some brief notes, if you could put 3 things that 3 tips or 3 kind of points of discussion into the chat, and hopefully there will be a cascade of interesting bits. And what we're going to do as you do that is because we don't have time to go through it all now, we'll send you all those tips after the meeting. So if you could put some your top 3 into the chat at the moment, that would be great. And before I hand back to Cass and B, oh yeah, there's some great stuff coming in. Just like to say, yeah, from me and Georgina, really thank you for coming and be in touch with us. This is a dialogue, and by no means are we the experts. So let's learn and share together. So thank you very much, and I'll pass over
Thank
to
you
Cass
so
and
much,
B.
everybody. It's been such a pleasure to speak to you. And yeah, as Ben said, let's keep sharing. And I think Cassie and B will ask you to fill in a little survey that we'll put in the chat. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you so much, Georgina. That was such a great, brilliant practical tips that we hope that you guys can implement in your practice moving forward. So thank you. We would really like it if you we would really like it if you could fill out the survey, which we are going to post in the chat now. Joy will post that into the chat. Please give us feedback. That would be really useful. Thank you so much. And B?
Yeah, thanks so much, everyone. Just a couple of things that I wanted to say at the end, apart from thank you for being here. And oh, Andy, here you are. I've just seen you. We were in a breakout room in Soundcloud. Hi, yeah. But anyway, we've got a Facebook group, which is the Inclusive Music Teachers and Leaders group. For anyone that's not a member of that, please come over and join us. It's a great place to share ideas and tips. And we've got over 1,000 members now, so think of all the ideas you could pool in there with your colleagues. Just to invite you as well to our next webinar in the series, which will be on the 22nd of April at 4 p.m. on Zoom, which will be with myself and Professor Adam Ockleford exploring Sounds of Intent, the framework that he has devised for tracking progress for students with additional needs. And the big finisher is if you've been amped up and excited and got loads of ideas by this webinar and you feel in the need to party but you've got nowhere to go like the rest of us, then go to Facebook, go to our Drake page, because tonight at between 7 and 8 p.m. we're having the after party of our new current artists who we are supporting this year. We've got music from Ardaya, Elishante and Alabdo as well. You don't need any tickets or anything, just head to the Drake Facebook page today, 7 to 8 p.m, and have a listen to the after party there and hear some of our amazing disabled musicians make some music. It's 5:17, we're 2 minutes over, but I hope we're all fascinated and engaged and have had a great time today. Thank you, Ben and Georgina, and our amazing signing and captioning team as well, and Joy for sorting everything out. And thank you all for being here and engaging with this dialogue, and let's keep being inclusive. So thank you so much, and we'll see you hopefully on the 22nd of April. Bye.